Welcome to the Champs App podcast, where we help players and parents demystify the world of minor hockey development and recruiting for both girls and boys. On this episode, I talk with Hilary Witt, who is the head coach at the University of New Hampshire women's ice hockey program. We discuss what it takes to make the US under-18 team, the stress of making an Olympic team, and advice for players and parents who are going through the recruiting process. Oh, and just a heads up, one of Hilary's dogs wanted to be on the podcast, so while we did our best to edit them out, once in a while you'll hear them barking in the background. Before we get to our guest, if you enjoyed this episode and want us to keep making more of them, please share it with teammates and friends. You can also subscribe, like, follow, and even better, it would be great if you would leave us a review. Now, let's drop the puck and get to the show. I'm very excited to have on the Champs App podcast, Hilary Witt, who is the head coach with the New Hampshire Wildcats women's hockey team. She's originally from Canton, Massachusetts. She spent 4 years at Northeastern, where she was a three-time Patty Kazmaier finalist, including scoring 113 goals and 208 points during her career at Northeastern. She then turned her sights to coaching, where she spent 9 years at Yale, 2 years back at her alma mater at Northeastern. She also spent some time with the U.S. national team, including the 2014 Olympic team in Sochi as an assistant coach, and now she's in her 7th season at New Hampshire. Welcome to the podcast, Hilary.
Thanks for having me.
So, Hilary, we want to start off hearing about your hockey history, but I understand hockey really wasn't your first love. It was really baseball and softball. So maybe talk about how you got convinced to come over to the hockey side of things, given your family's history in baseball and softball.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I played lots of sports in the backyard. My brother and in the neighborhood with all the kids, and hockey was one, and baseball, wiffle ball, anything like that was the other. And I have a family history with baseball, so it was just kind of in us to play that game. And so I ultimately ended up playing a lot of softball and travel softball in the summers and pretty competitive softball along with hockey. And I just I love being on the field. I also love being on the ice, so I loved them both. I didn't really can't say that I loved one way more than the other, but I did love taking ground balls at shortstop. It was just something I always loved, and I still would if I wasn't getting older. But hockey is obviously, a big part of my life and always has been, and I'm just grateful to still be doing it.
How did you get into playing hockey in the first place? Was it a sibling, a parent? Did you put on figure skates or hockey skates first?
Well, my dad coached hockey in his hometown. We lived this town over. And then my brother played. So I was just kind of sick of going to the rinks and not being able to play. I was very active and loved athletics when I was a kid. So, I had awesome parents who gave me a great opportunity to put the skates on when it wasn't that popular for girls.
Gotcha. And then when you were growing up, were you playing with girls teams or boys teams during your youth hockey days?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, like I said, my dad coached in Canton, where he grew up, and we lived in Hyde Park. And because he coached, I don't know if it's kosher, but he convinced them to let my brother and I play for Canton. So we played there for a long time. And when I was about checking age, I switched over to the girls.
And was your dad one of the key folks in helping in your development?
Yeah, my dad definitely was a big part of it, and always was. But I think a big part of my development was just playing in the backyard with the neighborhood kids. Like in those days, you really only played once or twice a week on the ice. You got most of your development from running up and down a tennis court, with your sneakers on or your rollerblades, and, just competing against everybody. And I think, one of the reasons I had success was just because you had to get kind of tough when you're playing with all these boys that are bigger and older than you. And you want to be able to keep up. You want them to let you keep playing. So you kind of have to find a way to earn their respect. And I think that's a big part of it. My dad, for sure, was a huge part of my development, and still is. But my mom as well. Like my mom, her work ethic, she wasn't much of an athlete, but she was definitely the kind of person that you just learn, like you made no excuses. You just worked hard. You took what came and you made the best of it. So I think both my parents had a huge impact on my life. And then getting older, I played for this awesome coach, Joe Knox, who ended up being an assistant at UNH after he coached me at Assabet. And he made a big impact on my life as a player too. And of course, my college coach was amazing. So I've been lucky and fortunate to have a lot of good people in my life to help me out.
And what made you such a good goal scorer before you showed up at Northeastern? Like, did you just have the natural hands? Was it your speed? Was it, decision making? How did you learn how to score goals?
Yeah, like definitely was not my speed. I was never a great skater, never fast. I think instincts, I think, like I said, like playing in the tennis courts, on the ponds, just kind of learning from playing without really a lot of coaches or referees or people telling you you're doing something wrong, and just kind of feeling it out. I think, it's probably what people would say a natural athlete. Like I never did anything pretty, but I somehow got the job done. Like I never fielded a ground ball right, but I would get it. I didn't skate that great, but I got to the net. So I think just honestly, like being an athlete, my brother was a goalie. And he always made me play goalie when we played in the street.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helped me as a goal scorer, understanding what it was like to be goalie too. But yeah, I always scored goals. I don't know why, honestly. I don't think it's that hard, which as a coach can be frustrating.
Yeah. So actually, I'm curious, is that something that you actually try and teach folks? Because you think there is a method to the madness?
I do think there's a method to the madness, especially as women. I think everybody wants to be the kid who gets the puck in the high slot and snipes bar down and does all these like fancy things that you see on like the top 10 goals of the day or whatever. But I found that most of my goals came because I went hard to the net. I maybe deflected it in. I got a rebound. Maybe it went off my knee or whatever it is. That's how I scored goals. So I don't know. It's just natural.
So then you're the perfect example of they don't ask how, they ask how many, and we even talked about 113 goals at Northeastern. So talk about the recruiting process, how you ended up at Northeastern.
My recruiting process was different because there weren't a lot of teams back in 1995, 96. And so it kind of came down to I wasn't that smart either. Like 6 of those teams were out immediately because I wasn't going Ivy.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
But I really had my heart set on going to Providence my whole life. I really wanted to go there. I had watched them growing up, and I visited and I really liked it. And then at the time, Northeastern was actually dropping the hockey program. They had announced that they were going to drop women's hockey. So I kind of took that off my list pretty early because I didn't think they were going to have it. And then all of a sudden, Heather Lindstedt called me, and I want to say it was like January, and was like, hey, I don't think we're going to be dropping the program. Would you like to come for a visit? And I went to visit, and I loved it. And it's kind of a funny story because my sister, like I was kind of off, and my sister's like, well, what's wrong? I was like, oh, nothing. And she's like, no, something's not right. And I'm like, no, I'm good. She's like, you don't want to go to Providence, do you? I was like, no, I don't. So it was like hard for me to tell everyone in my family and at school and everywhere that I had changed my mind because I just fell in love with Northeastern. So, I was fortunate enough for Heather to recruit me, and that's where I went. And, the other part of it was Providence was recruiting me as a D. So I'm pretty happy that I made my decision to go to Northeastern.
So no regrets.
No, not one. Nope.
So what do you think was the key to your success at your 4 years there? I mean, 3 years being a Patty Casimir finalist. I mean, that means you're one of the top 10 players in the country, 3 out of your 4 years that you were there.
Yeah, well, one of the things obviously was like having a coach that believed in me was helpful. You always want that. But I think a big piece of it for me was I always found ways to score goals. And that was just in me. Like, I didn't think like going from high school to college, I would stop scoring. I didn't think that I couldn't do it at that level. And I think that, with that ingrained in you, like, this is who I am. Like that just was what I was. I just wanted to score. So I found ways to do that. And I think that's why I had the success. And, like I was definitely a goal scorer going there, but I do credit my coach because I feel like she really helped me become an all-around player. Like I was the kid who always wanted to play. Like I never wanted to not play. And I remember my freshman year, we won the championship. It was amazing. And we were up a goal with like a couple minutes to go. And I wasn't one of the kids to go out there to preserve the win. And for the right reasons. So I wasn't upset about that, but I wanted to be that person. So I really worked hard after that to block shots and to be an all-around player, not just a goal scorer. So, like I think I had a lot of success because I just loved playing and I wanted to play all the time.
That's awesome. And obviously, as your playing career wound down at Northeastern, you obviously had a passion for the game. What made you decide to become a coach?
So I got cut from the national team in August. So Northeastern at the time, it still is kind of a 5-year school, but it was a 5-year school. So I was finishing up school when my eligibility was up, and I was trying to make the Olympic team, and I got cut in August, and I needed a job because it wasn't an option to just go sit in my parents' basement and live off of them. They were not going to have that. So I was fortunate enough that at Yale, John Marchetti needed an assistant. It was super late, and so it just worked out, and I owe him a lot for giving me the chance. So I ended up going down there as assistant coach. In fact, I was leaving after my year there because I wanted to go to grad school and do something else with my life, and then I ended up being
8
named
years.
the interim head coach.
Yeah, so you then spent 8 years in New Haven. So tell us what that was like. I mean, you're just, you had 1 year of assistant coach experience, 2 years out of playing, and now you're a head coach at an Ivy League school. I mean, did you feel prepared for it?
No, I still don't feel prepared for it, but I don't think a coach ever feels as prepared as they want to, I just kind of went with it. I would think I was just young and stupid. And so like, it didn't faze me. Yeah. Thinking about it now actually causes me more stress than thinking about it then. I think, I wasn't afraid. I just did what I did and believed in what I believed in. And I had great kids that supported me at Yale. And I had an amazing boss who unfortunately passed away not that long ago. And he was a great mentor to me and somebody I really credit for my success in my career. And I'm going to miss him greatly. And I really appreciate the opportunities that he helped me with.
What prompted you to return to your alma mater and spend 2 years at Northeastern as an assistant coach?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really been home since I had just graduated college, and I had never planned on being in New Haven as long as I was, and I really appreciate all those years. I was just ready to do something else and come home. I wasn't really sure if coaching was what I really wanted to be doing the rest of my life, but I'm so excited I left and went to Northeastern, and Dave Flint gave me the opportunity because it kind of rekindled my passion for it to be there. And so, it all kind of worked out. I tell my players all the time, you have to make really good decisions for yourself. I think I shocked even my parents when I left Yale because I didn't have to. Like I could have stayed there and kept going, but I just wanted to do something for myself and make a good decision for my own career. And a lot of people thought I was nuts, but I think long term, it really was the best decision, and it's really worked out for me.
Let me ask you the same question I asked Lindsey Berman, who's also at Northeastern currently as an assistant coach. And then we're going to hopefully have Shelley Looney on the podcast pretty soon. Why is Northeastern such a hockey factory for female coaches?
I think, for most of us, because we had a great experience, I think when you have a good experience and you enjoy what you're doing, you want to keep giving back to the game and be part of it. So, and I know those guys really well, like Shelley, I've known for a really long time, and I'm so happy for her and her getting going here at the college level because she deserves it, and she's a great coach and a great person. So I just think when you enjoy what you're doing and you have a really good experience, it makes you want to stay in it.
Nice. And then you decided to continue on with the USA Hockey national team. So tell us about all the different roles that you've played with the national team, and then maybe get into some of the things that you look for in players as you're looking at either U18 or U22 or the national team. And then maybe we'll get into the Olympics and right after that.
Yeah, so Reagan Carey, who was the director of women's hockey at the time, created this position and thought I would be the right fit for it at the right time. So essentially I was the head scout for both the national team and the U18 team, and worked on player development. And it was fun for me because I got to travel a lot and work with the best players. And I think that's every coach's dream, is to get to work with the best. And so I was so fortunate to be able to be in that role for a couple of years. And while I was in that role, Katie Stone gave me the opportunity to be her assistant coach with the national team, and I'm forever grateful for her to her for that. And so I got to be an assistant coach with the national team, with the U18 team. I got to be the head scout. I got to travel the world. Like, it's kind of a dream. Like, I've been very, very, very fortunate and lucky to have a lot of the opportunities that I've had.
Great. So I need to ask you a few questions, that our audience wants to hear. So first of all, to make the U18 team, what does it take? What are you looking for of, the best of the best of the under 18s nationally?
I don't want to speak for them now. I haven't been there in a while. But,
when you were there, what were you looking for? Yeah.
When I was there, you wanted to find kids with a lot of skill. And there's a lot of those kids out there. Hockey IQ is a big part of being the best of the best. Like, you can be a really good player, but if you want to break that top 20, you have to separate yourself. So it takes skill, it takes hockey IQ, it takes the grit, and mental toughness to be able to handle those situations, because they're short tournaments and one loss can do you in. So, the biggest thing is to find the kids that have the skill, the hockey IQ, and honestly, consistency. But you're also trying to put a team together, and I think that's what a lot of people don't always see. You just don't want the top 20 fastest skaters. You might need to have some kids who are really, really good in the PK, really good goal scorers, really good in the D zone. And so you're just trying to put together a whole team, not just the 20 best players.
Gotcha. So you've worked the World Championships, you've worked the Olympics, so you worked the best of the best. So what separates a good college player from a national team player?
Yeah, I would have to say, like, the speed of the game, being able to make quick decisions, and honestly, that hockey IQ, like, you have to be able to, it's not like you can just write on a whiteboard everything you want a team to do. Like, you need kids that have the confidence to go out there and make plays, not afraid to make mistakes, tough, strong, committed to being the fastest, most fit player you can be, strongest. It's a commitment to be a national team player. It's a big commitment to be a college player. It's a huge commitment to be a national team player. You have to have the ability to give up a lot of things a lot of other people can do. You have to take care of your body in ways other people don't have to. You have to be able to be cut from a team one season and make the team the next tournament. It really is. It's a grind, both physically and mentally, and not everyone's meant for that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's definitely a much different level than college.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit more. So I had Lindsay Fry on the podcast recently. She was one of the players that went with you to Sochi in 2014. And her and Josephine Pucci spoke about the stress that they had leading up to just being selected for the team. Because even as you go through the entire process, up to I think it's even 6 weeks beforehand, the final roster is not final. And so you're never assured of a spot until just a few weeks beforehand. Talk about the mental side of being able to handle that stress and always basically being evaluated at every practice and every game leading up to the final roster being announced.
So the stress of the Olympic team, like a long time ago, I went through similar stress when I was trying to make the Olympic team, and there is really nothing that compares to it. And it's really hard to have anyone in your life really understand it. Like your whole family is like so excited and, hoping you make the team. So you not only have the pressure and stress of wanting to make the team yourself, you have the pressure and stress of everyone around you wanting you to make the team so bad. And then, you have your families trying to make arrangements to travel to some strange places in the world. But then you might not be there. So, I think there's so much stress behind the scenes that no one ever thinks about that these players have to go through, let alone just trying to live their dream and make the Olympic team. So yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you have to have this special part about you that can handle that stuff and still go out there and perform at your best. And it's just, you gotta give those players a ton of credit for what they go through.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you've had an illustrious coaching career, and in fact, you've been inducted into 3 different hockey Hall of Fames. I was wondering how often you get to visit each of the hockey Hall of Fames. You're in the Northeastern, you got the Athletic Hall of Fame, the Women's Beanpot Hall of Fame, the Massachusetts Hockey Hall of Fame. How often do you get to visit these Hall of Fames?
Well, none of them are actually like places, so it's mostly like visiting the memories. But like it's kind of surreal. Like most of those things happened a long time ago, and I'm so grateful for all those opportunities and for the people to recognize the success. But like mostly, like I always tell people, like hockey is a team sport. Like nobody has this kind of success without the teams they were on. So I'm just very grateful for everyone in my life who's given me opportunities, and and I just am grateful for the fact that I got to play such an amazing game. And so like, it's just kind of surreal. I don't really think about it too much, to be honest with you. It's really just thinking about the next game and the next season and trying to be the best team we can be at UNH.
All right. Cool. So how did you end up in Durham, New Hampshire?
So yeah, after that Olympic year, the job at UNH opened up, and I feel like they had some other choices probably before me, but I was fortunate enough to have got to know one of the ADs there over the years, and also like having been at the Olympics and having the opportunity there and having success. It was a great job for me to go after, and so grateful for Marty Scarano and the athletic department for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, and it's a storied college. They won the championship back in 1998. We had Aaron Hamlin, who's now at Merrimack, on the podcast. And you're only the 4th coach in 44 seasons, which basically says they really like their coaches, and they stick around for a long time. Tell me about the Whittemore Center. It's an Olympic-sized ice rink. Couple of questions for you. Is the fact that it had an Olympic-sized ice rink and you just came from the Olympics, did you bring any knowledge of playing on a larger ice surface when you came to UNH?
You definitely learn from your experiences. So there were some parts of the game that I definitely was able to, I think, bring with me from my international hockey experiences. But I mean, ultimately, the game really needs to be played inside the dots, and so. That's the place where it's hardest to get to, and that's the place where teams need to get to put quality shots on net. So, we have to play half of our games in smaller barns. So we have to be able to play anywhere. And, we do talk a lot about, in being inside the dots, like I think any coach and any team would talk about. So, yeah,
is it a bit of a home ice advantage at all?
It's definitely for sure, tough for visiting teams. We hosted the Frozen Four a few years back, and I remember overhearing one of the teams say, "Oh, I'd hate to have to do like conditioning on this rink," right? So I definitely think, like when I was a player at Northeastern, it was very intimidating to go to UNH and play because the building was so big. But we don't really think about it too much, to be honest with you. We just go out there every day and play.
All right. And when you do play, after you score a first goal, do they throw a fish on the ice, a catfish on the ice, or is that just for the men's team?
No, that's for both. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And how long a delay is it for them to clean it up and get it off the ice?
They're very quick. They're very, very quick. They get out there and they get it off, and you wouldn't even notice if you didn't know it was coming.
Okay. And so obviously coaching for many years at Yale in the Ivy League, how does Hockey East compare to Ivy League hockey?
It's different. So the Ivy League teams play in the ECAC. The travel's a bit different, but all of college hockey's gotten so strong over the last 20 years that every opponent's tough, every game is tough, but it's definitely a different travel type of schedule, being in Hockey East, with the teams being a lot closer together in geography. Gotcha.
So I'm more curious now. You've been there several years. You've been remarkably consistent over the years, but I'm wondering, why is it so hard to kind of crack the top 10 for your team?
I think hockey in general has been really good. And I think if you look across the board, there's been some teams that have consistently been there for a long time. And we're building to that point. And, I think every year is different and everybody has an opportunity to get there. And I really like my team. It's funny, like you can't always look at records and things like that. You have to kind of look at your personnel and the long-term plan. So, I feel like, we've turned it around a lot. When I took over, it was a last place team, and we've made the playoffs every year. We've made a lot of good strides there, and yeah, we want to get to the top 10. I mean, everyone does. So we just got to keep plugging away, and I believe strongly we'll get there.
And talk to me about your coaching staff. What are the dynamics like? How do you divide the responsibilities, both for what you're doing on the ice and the recruiting piece of it? And then once you're done that, I'd like to understand what you're like during a game behind the bench.
Yeah, so I have a staff with a lot of experience, so I'm fortunate that there's a lot of things that I don't have to worry about with a younger and inexperienced staff. So we divide and conquer, where one of my assistants was a goalie, works with the goalies, and that works out. One is a UNH alum and has done a great job working with our D over the years. And, we all work together on everything. I typically work more with the forwards, but of course, as the head coach, work with everybody. And then as recruiting goes, we all divide and conquer in the off season, but during the season, obviously, it's the assistants more often. Of course, this year of COVID, it's just been a bizarre year. So
yeah, we'll get into that in a second. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's strange.
What do you like behind the bench? So I've gotten everybody from people like yelling at the refs to like, I'm just so calm, I keep quiet, to I only just talk, I only mention a few things here and there to the players, and that's about it. So what do you like behind the bench?
I guess it depends on the game. Sometimes I'm very quiet, and sometimes I'm very animated. I guess you could say. Ultimately, like, I'm very much of a instinctual coach behind the bench. Sometimes I think that works out well, and sometimes maybe not as much. But I definitely try to have a feel for the game, much like as a player. Like there's situations in the game where you get a little more animated, and the situations where you got to be a little quiet. I try not to overcoach the players on the bench. Because they don't need you in their heads. They need to go play. Your preparation should be done all week long at practice. So I try not to get after them very often on the bench, just kind of encourage them and give them confidence. But, of course, at times you might want to get after somebody if, there's a bad change or a lack of effort. But for the most part, I try not to overdo it. My players might tell you that I do overdo it, but I try not to.
Yeah, that's a separate podcast. We'll talk to the players. So
yeah.
Now, a couple things. You do have a pretty young team this year, which probably is reflected in your record. And I noticed a lot of them are Canadian. So tell us how you ended up with so many Canadians on your roster.
Yeah, we are very, very young. We play 8 freshmen a lot. We graduated 8 seniors last year. So we are very young, which is why I'm so excited about our team. And that's why I said, I don't look at us at our record. I'm very excited about our future. We end up with a lot of Canadians because honestly, there's a lot of schools in the New England area. And, a lot of those Boston schools and a lot of the kids from Massachusetts tend to stay home like I did and go to those Boston schools. So we've just had a lot of success in Canada. Our campus is, really beautiful, and it's comfortable. And I think, families are comfortable sending their kids to Durham and to UNH. So we will just take the best players we can get. And they just seem to all coming from Canada right now for the most part, but not everyone.
I gotcha. Let's kind of move over to the recruiting side of things, which given your tenure in coaching, how has the quality of player changed in the last 10 years from when you were recruiting 10 years ago versus today?
Well, players today are definitely more athletic. I shouldn't say athletic. They're more, they skate better. They're faster. They shoot harder. They're a little more skilled that way. There's more players to choose from than there once was. I think that 1998 Olympic team, who had an anniversary the other day, was a really big part of that. We saw a big spike in players starting hockey when that happened. And so there's just a lot more players out there, and there's a lot more opportunity for them to train, for them to develop, for them to get great coaching. So they're definitely, it's just like Bobby Orr was amazing, and he still would be, but the guys today are probably bigger, stronger, shoot harder, and those types of things, because life evolves. And so these kids today are super talented, very fit, strong. So it just evolves.
Gotcha. And how has COVID impacted, the actual recruiting you're going to do, or at least Hockey East schools are going to be doing for the next couple of years? Well, like, what do you think the impact of COVID is going to be on the 2022s and the 2023s?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting because, the NCAA granted everybody an extra year of eligibility because of it. So
Yep.
That's definitely going to be complicated in a lot of areas, whether it's, PSAs or current players, coaches try to figure out the puzzle of rosters. And so it's definitely challenging and different and something none of us have been through. So it's not really like you can ask anybody, what did you do when this happened? We're all just trying to do the best we can, be respectful of the process, and do what's best for our programs.
So hopefully the blackout period ends in the next couple of months. What do you think the plans would be for you and your staff to go out and start recruiting again? Will you be attending showcases? Will you be going to tournaments? And if you do, just in generally speaking, what is it that the coaching staffs look for in college level players?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll see everyone as soon as that the NCAA and the schools say go ahead. Everybody will be antsy to get going and to have people visit their campuses. And then, as far as what we look for, I mean, I think everybody's looking for the best players. I mean, it's not a secret when you go out to these showcases who's the best. And
when you say it's not a secret what the best players are, or who the best players are, what is it that they show that is so obvious to the scouts, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, the best players are, people who can score goals at every level, people who skate well, people who have good hockey IQ and make plays. So when you're watching games, you're watching showcases, some kids stick out more than others. Other kids are late bloomers. So that's why you have to do your homework. And some kids who might be great in high school might not be as good in college. It's a tough physical game. I found that, it's a big jump for kids. And the physical part of the college game is definitely a piece that I don't think everybody necessarily knows is going to happen when they get there. And so having kids who can handle this physical side of it's, I think, very important.
Gotcha. And what advice would you give parents who are kind of stressed out about what's going on these days as they deal with it, especially, if they have, they're an upcoming grad, maybe if they're 2024, 2025, they're not so worried, but the ones who are really kind of, I think, are more concerned are the 2022s these days.
So for the parents, I wouldn't want to be in their shoes. I think it's really hard to guide your child. I think it's really hard for high school coaches. I think it's really hard for prep school coaches. I think it's really hard for people trying to run showcases to give kids opportunities. And, the reality of it is this is hard for everyone. COVID is not easy. And so although it's hard, we all have to get through it. We all have to find ways. So I always just tell people all the time, for parents, do what's best for your family. Do what is best for your kid. And you can only control what you can control. So, ultimately kids should be playing hockey because they love it. And if they love it, they're going to try to find their way through this and things will happen and things will work out. But to try to control a situation, I think we've all learned during COVID is none of us control it. None of us can control a pandemic, and it is going to be different and opportunities may be lost, but sometimes in lost opportunities, new opportunities are created. So, just stay patient and do the best you can to support your kid. And that's all any of us can do right now.
That's some great advice for parents and their kids. So just a couple more questions. Looking back on your actual hockey career, not your coaching career, what would you do differently as a kid, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't have had as many potato chips after school. Maybe I would have been a little more fit and been a better skater. I don't know. But no, I don't honestly have any regrets. I'm very fortunate to have grown up in a supportive family, be given the opportunities I've been given. And, I can't really complain about anything. Life is hard. That's one message I'd tell kids. Life's hard. If you think it's going to be easy, it's not. And if you can find the good in all the bad, and you can grow from all the tough times, then you're going to look back and always know that you did the best you could. And, you know, my upbringing was no better or worse than anyone else's. You know, like there were good times, there were bad times. There were times you get cut from a team and you're struggling, and times you make a team and you're ecstatic. And I always say how you react to all of those situations is really what's going to define you. And so, you know, I was cut from the Olympic team, but I'm still a happy human and I'm still living my dream. So I would say to kids, don't let one event, one situation define you. Just, you know, find your passion and go with it.
Gotcha. That's also some great advice there. So if folks want to learn more, you know, about the UNH program, are you having any camps this summer? Do you know if you're going to have any of those? Where can folks get more information, or at least raise their hand and you know, express an interest in the program?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they can reach out to us anytime by phone or email. And, you know, we are hoping to have our camp this summer. That'll be a COVID decision for the university, but we're hoping that things get back to normal and we can have our camp. But yeah, people can reach out anytime to me personally or my assistant coaches. And, you know, we want to always share how great UNH is.
That's awesome. And where can folks find you guys on the internet? Do you know if you have an Instagram, Twitter?
Oh yeah, we have it all. So UNHW Hockey would be our Twitter and Instagram. You know, our website, unhwildcats.com. So yeah, we have all the fun social media things that I can't really keep up with, but
you do have a really good team putting out summaries of every home game for sure on YouTube that I've watched quite a bit from this season.
Yeah, we're lucky at UNH. Like we have awesome people that work in sports marketing, sports information, sports publicity, and just a lot of support. So you can find us anywhere. So like I said, like at UNHW Hockey, that's what most of our online social media handles are.
Perfect. Hilary, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Champs App podcast. This is awesome. I mean, you shared some really great stories that are really going to be educational and informative to our audience. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I really want to thank Hilary for coming on the podcast. It was great to hear about her impressive hockey career and what she looks for when recruiting. And remember, if you got something out of today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you'd like, follow, subscribe, and even better if you could leave us a review so we can keep sharing this important hockey information with folks just like you.